on DOA 6 on PS4 once again, and you're on the Fighter Select screen with me. So let's have a look at this sexual narrative that GT keep going on about. You can see Zack here, bare-chested, rippling pectorals, muscles and stuff in a pair of shorts. Other male characters are similarly buffed up and sexualized in their physique. Bayman, Rido even. Rig wearing not much. And the blokes can often be found, wearing next to nothing. The picture of Zack, who I showed first in his shorts, and Yan Lee that Game Central put up with the caption, "Everyone needs a decent wardrobe" or something. It's in real life, boxers go into the ring in shorts and bare chests. That's what happens in the real world. I'm just saying. And yet, here on DOA, the agenda in the review was to mention the women. The women were mentioned first and more prominently throughout the review, with men kind of acknowledged, but the focus was on the women. But it's not just DOA that does this, it's all fighting games. So we're on PS4, let's take a look at some other fighting games. In looking at other fighting games on the PlayStation 4, you're with me and Mortal Kombat. And here you can see the buffed up, sexualized physique of Scorpion. We can do Sub-Zero also. But it's not just restricted to the men, obviously, as we said before. It's the scantily clad, sexualized women. The younger ones, the sons and daughters of tight-fitting, buffed-up figures, tight-fitting, sexualized figures of both males and females, showing off butts and crotches and all that. But Mortal Kombat gets away with it. It's just DOA, it's DOA, it's DOA, and in every review I've ever read on Game Central, it's been DOA. And it's boring. It's a boring agenda, and it's an unfair one, and it's a biased one. If they're going to talk about one fighting game, then they're going to talk about them all. So after Mortal Kombat on PS4, you're with me on Soul Calibur 6 on PS4. Now, one of the things that Game Central did in that review was it mentioned about DOA being basic, and basically players could get to grips with a more advanced fighter sort of thing. Like Bandai Namco's Soul Calibur or Tekken games, which I thought was actually quite disgusting. But here we are in Soul Calibur. Now Soul Calibur, I remember they disgustingly asked a question to the developers about Ivy's costume and said, was it problematic designing Ivy's costume, knowing full well they were pushing a sexualization agenda, hammering on about women again. Okay, so we're in Soul Calibur, and they've absolutely hammered DOA, right? They've absolutely hammered it. Soul Calibur has a character creation mode, which I mentioned in my email, in which you can create a male or a female, and you can have them with different settings. You can buff up a male and have him dressed in as little or as much as you want. You can create a gorgeous female and you can have them dressed in as little or as much as you want, as the game allows. So here I'm on the chest setting, since Game Central seem to be fixated with boobs, and you can turn it up to the maximum. Now in Soul Calibur, when you create your female, as I said, you are free to dress them in as little or as scantily as the game will allow. This is one character I'd made earlier anyway. And the boob setting is at maximum, and the boobs in Soul Calibur, and you're going to need to sit down for this because the boobs in Soul Calibur bounce, and it doesn't have a bounce setting for the boobs in the option. but they bounce nevertheless. And you're going to also need to stay sat down, because I'm going to shock you even more about boobs bouncing. Boobs bounce in real life, because you know what? Gravity is a thing. So now we've got that shock to the system out the way, we can move on and have a look at some of the other characters in Soul Calibur. So here we are at the character select screen for Versus, and we can just flick our cursor along and have a look at some of these characters. This is Kilik. He's male, he's buffed up, he's sexualized, and he's showing off a bit of his chest there and stuff. And you can take Kilik into character creation, and you can, you know, sort him out in different attire and have him show off even more of his chest if you wish, because that's what Soul Calibur allows. This is Mitsurugi, and Mitsurugi's been bare-chested in Soul Calibur games before now, in varying iterations. Another buffed up, sexualized male character there, as is Maxi. And we can go along to have a look at some more sexualized male characters, because fighting games do that, you know. But Game Central would have you believe it's women, 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 women all the way, and especially in DOA. And you know, like I say, I just find it disgusting, because if they're gonna have a go at one game and gonna really hammer it, then they can hammer them all, can't they? Or can they? Does their agenda that they want to push, their narrative that they want to push, does it allow for it? Well, let's have a look at another one, and this is one of their favourites that we're going to be having a look at. Let's go take a look at Street Fighter. So you're here with me on the fabled Street Fighter, one of Game Central favourites that scores very, very highly and seems to get away scot-free with any accusations of sexualisation or being grubby or, you know, slightly creepy. Armika's bum is on display for all to admire. Cammy is in her tight-fitting, bum-revealing, traditional leotard. And you can see there on this Brazilian stage, you've got some Brazilian dancers wearing not very much at all. If you went into the DLC, you would be able to purchase the swimsuit set for Street Fighter. There are other sexualized characters in the women, you know, and Street Fighter's been around for quite a while, so everybody knows it. But yet, when it comes to Game Central, it's DOA, it's DOA, it's DOA, and you know what? It's DOA. They're grubby and slightly creepy. Okay, right, yeah, and you're really hypocritical. So, we've kind of got the general gist of the women. Let's go take a look at some of the blokes. So here we are with a couple of the blokes in Street Fighter, and we've got Zangief in his buffed up fashion as usual, just wearing a pair of boots and something on his wrist and whatever kind of wrestling trunks they are. To his right we have Vega, who has his shirt open and he's buffed up and sexualized just like Zangief is, and Vega has these tight fitting bottoms showing up his crotch and his bum and all that. But hey, it's DOA, it's DOA, it's DOA, it's women, it's boobs bouncing, it's every other game, you know, but not according to Game Central. You know, we could mention, couldn't we, Blade Blue, we could mention other fighting games, we could even mention other games in general with sexualization. What was it, Fire Emblem on the 3DS. That has become, you know, the women like revealing clothing, all that, the blokes, you know, showing their chests up and stuff, but let's not talk about that. Let's just hammer DOA, because as I put forward facts, and as I show facts, and as I show balance, what I'm actually seeing when I read Game Central's reviews on DOA over the years is an agenda being pushed and a narrative, and I find that utterly disgusting. I find that grubby, and I find that very creepy, and I think that Game Central needs to grow up.